friends, and welcome to another tremendous installment from very high above all the insipid and puerile forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Monday. Have you noticed that there hasn't been a single article published about the speeches given by all the gubernatorial candidates at the Republican convention? Have you noticed that? And frankly, there hasn't been anything mentioned about any of the speeches for the congressional candidates either. Now, in all fairness, the Open Range Record hasn't published one either. But I happen to know for a fact that that one is coming. What's interesting to me, though, is if the media's chosen candidate had really rocked the House, you would have seen big 3-inch headlines, as they used to say in the newspaper biz, above the fold. You could have seen those headlines 10 yards away before you ever got close to the newspaper machine. There's another thing that we don't have too many of anymore: the mechanism by which dishonest reporters would distribute their drivel. Antiquated machines and dishonest reporters aside, the Wyoming media hasn't published a single word about the gubernatorial speeches from the 2026 Wyoming Republican Party convention. Not one word. Now, here's another side of it. You would think that if a candidate knew that politically active, very Republican people from Wyoming's 23 counties were going to be all together in the very same room, that they would spend a week, perhaps two, preparing their remarks. After all, it's not every day that a candidate gets to speak in person to a group as politically diverse as that. Now I know what you're saying. Oh, David, they're all Republicans. Are they? Are they really? Are the Republicans that attended the convention from Natrona County the same as the Republicans from Sheridan County? Not by half. But I'm kind of getting away from my point. And that is twofold. First, you would think that any candidate with half a brain cell would have prepared that speech before the convention for at least a week, perhaps more. That they would have poll tested every phrase, that they would have tried it on different groups of people to see their reaction. The tempo and enthusiasm, all practiced and all measured. But for the most part, that's not what you saw. The second thing that I'm driving at, which is very much related to the first, is the media's reaction. If their candidate had really done a great job giving their speech, it would have been printed and published already. But we haven't seen hide nor hair from anybody in the Wyoming press. Here's why. You had one gubernatorial candidate that was the clear favorite of the crowd. Another didn't even bother to stand behind the podium and deliver an address. Instead, at his campaign booth, recorded a video that he asked to be played during his time to give a speech. What a dope. Of course, I'm referring to the cowardly Eric Barlow. All right. Before I get pilloried, why do I call him cowardly? Because he was there. The reason he didn't give a speech is that he knew his comments would not be well received from the crowd, because those people actually know what his voting record is. No doubt it would have been a pretty uncomfortable couple of minutes up on the stage, but he didn't do that. He recorded a video. Honestly, you can't really make this stuff up. And then there's the coronated candidate, Her Majesty Meganfelder. She was expecting a slightly different reception from the crowd. Admittedly, I was not in attendance. I chose to spend my time at the Master Chief's 80th birthday party. Happy birthday, Master Chief. So anyway, we have to rely on crowd-sourced video from the event. And I'll play it for you in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's pay a couple of bills. Today's installment of Monday Reload is brought to you by Morton Buildings. No matter what type of building you're thinking about for your property, call Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. 307-674-2532, or you can check them out at their website, mortonbuildings.com. Also, today's show is brought to you by the Buffalo Wool Company. It doesn't matter if it's snowy outside like it is this morning or if it's a burning hot August summer day in Wyoming. You need a pair of socks that just take care of your feet. The best pair of socks that you can buy come from the Buffalo Wool Company. Go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Let's get back to today's brief installment of Monday Reload. Here's a little piece from what Megan Felder was not expecting.
We cannot follow. We must lead. And we must set the standard, set the bar right here in Wyoming for the rest of the country. My name is Megan Felder, and I'm running for governor because Wyoming must lead. And I know that with your help, that's exactly what we'll do. Thank you.
All right. A tepid response, if there ever was one. Now, Megan Felder only spoke for a couple of minutes, but it was as vacuous and hollow as it was rote, as if there was a tried-and-true method to speaking to Republican voters, and you can only say those things. I will defend the Second Amendment and defend the life of the unborn. While I consider those two things to be requirements, to repeat them as if you were reading off of a script, well, voters can see right through inauthenticity. If Megan Felder were the only speaker, and if the crowd's desultory response were the only one, perhaps Megan Felder would be satisfied with it. But that was not to be. Here is the crowd's response to Brent Bien's speech.
My objective is to return Wyoming to the people, but I need the help of every warrior patriot out there. To return taxes to the taxpayer, education to the parents, okay, agriculture to the growers, elections to the voters, and of course, folks, energy to Wyoming. We are the battleground America. Let's make Wyoming number one, folks. It's all about you guys.
That, my friends, is why you've seen nothing in the Wyoming media about the governor candidate's speeches. As far as political coverage goes, reporting of what a candidate says is pretty low-hanging fruit, and a high-profile appearance such as the Wyoming Republican Party convention, especially so. It's just further evidence that the Wyoming media is not calling balls and strikes, and they never were. They'd be satisfied with any governor that is not a conservative. There's one candidate, at least at the Republican Party convention this past weekend, that had the momentum, if only for that crowd of a few hundred Wyoming Republicans. For the other two candidates, well, one of them didn't even bother to show up, and the other treated the crowd as if they wished they were somewhere else instead of on the Republican stage. I'm just calling it as I see it, my friends. Over the next week, the Open Range Record is going to publish several different articles about the convention, complete with some of them having audio. So as the week progresses, you'll be seeing more of those. Well, that'll do it for today's installment of the program. Have a good week, and we'll talk again on Wednesday. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns, at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics.